This episode of Shootin' the Strings is proudly brought to you by the Guitar Colonel. For the best vintage and used guitars in Australia, visit www.guitarcolonel.com. Now it's time for your favorite megastars, Sir Nigel and the Colonel.
Welcome everyone. Apologies for the slight delay.
Hello. Yes.
Might be surprised to know we had a few technology challenges here in the
Colonel
Studio number 2 this morning.
I told Panda not to eat 2 microphones. Just stick to one.
Yeah.
It's much better for you. How are you, Sir Nigel?
It's been a huge week, Colonel.
Yes.
Huge week. A fantastic week. And look, I'm wearing the souvenirs of this is what amounts to a good week in music.
Oh.
And it's a bit of a, I think the young people call this a flex.
I know. I had one from Luna Park, where we took Phoebe to Luna Park on Australia Day, and I couldn't get it off.
Okay, so that's not a flex.
No.
This is the SB Gershwin room,
Kind
where
of cool.
I was last night.
If you're watching from interstate, the SB is a classic hotel/band venue, which has been done up, but it's still kind of cool, in St Kilda, and it has hosted many people, including Nigel's own son, who is a wizard.
He's a
Who
level
plays
9.
bass.
Yeah, he's a wizard, and he's in a band called Pretty Francis.
Who
Who opened for a band called Hot Glue last night. Great gig, great food at the SB. We went early and ate.
Oh yeah.
And it's an iconic venue. They have spent millions fixing it, and then COVID came along, so I feel kind of sorry for them. But it's as iconic as this venue we have behind us today, which is going to be a clue for people as to where we're going in our giant airline trip around the great rock postcodes of the world.
4,000. Oops, I've given it away. Jeff is on from Brisbane.
Brisbane,
There's a clue. That venue behind us, Sir Nigel. Well, let's see if they can guess it. See if you can guess which and I have not been to this. In fact, it was not in Brisbane when I lived there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, I love today's story. The threads have come together brilliantly because it's all the things I love to talk about.
Yes.
And about technology and about social change and about places and people and occasionally guitars.
And guitars, absolutely. Well, speaking of guitars, Sir Nigel, why don't we introduce our guitars first?
Yes, good idea.
And then let's yak. Now, Sir Nigel, you are on.
Oh my goodness. Look at the colour of the custom coloured Strat, but I know nothing about it from there other than the fact I am a jackdaw and I just picked it up.
Well, that is a 65 custom shop reissue Strat. It's come in from young Chris Gain, who is in fact Rick Wong's son. Now, they don't have the same name.
Wow.
And
so that Rick could have been our fourth Doctor on the last week's show.
He could have been, absolutely.
There you go.
A Doctor of Rock. So Chris is Rick's blues son, and this is his Strat. It's coming on consignment. It's a Lake Placid blue, 65 custom shop, light relic, all original.
Metallic blue, if you can't see it out there, folks. And the small head. So pleased about that.
That's right. Yes. So there were a few transition models around then, but this I guess would have been an early 65, if it was in fact an original 65.
But no, they're unaffordable. They're like, who could buy a 1960s Strat? Where's the Strat?
Well, the 63. Just quickly, this is an LSL.
Not a Fender.
Not a Fender. This is from a builder in California.
Gee, it's a good-looking guitar.
Yes, who hand makes everything. And this is not a bits and pieces Strat telly from Warmouth. This is actually handcrafted by the man himself. And they're great. They're great.
I'm looking forward to seeing it on the TV later because it's TV yellow.
A nice little sound there. Maybe a bit more. That didn't sound great. Slightly better.
Nice.
That was definitely early morning Colonel playing there.
Yeah, it's got a bit of the wood grain coming through.
It's got
a bit of crackling. So it's
a little bit of
effort into it.
It's nitro finished. So he does the whole relic thing as well. But I just find he's a great builder. LSL guitars, really.
Where are they from? America.
America, California. America.
My theory that California will be its own country at some stage in the future. They're just going to secede from that American shit show. So
they're probably praying for an earthquake that just cuts off and they float out to sea a little bit.
Close the roads, no problem at all.
Like we hope for Queensland. No, I'm only kidding. I'm from Queensland. I love Queensland.
Oh, look, we have to celebrate them, don't we? Queensland's more the Texas of Australia than the California.
It's upside down here. We're in the southern hemisphere, so all of the wackiness.
I want to celebrate this week and shout out to the people at the Music Vault here in Melbourne.
What's that?
I had no idea this existed. So way back in 2017-18, the Arts Centre of Melbourne gathered together the most unbelievable archive of rock and roll Australian nostalgic like guitars, outfits, music, notebooks, amplifiers, posters of the greatest rock and roll gigs in Australia since the 50s. I was just slivering. This is what I live for.
On the plate glass.
And then including the most remarkable four-walled, three-dimensional experience of concerts and they rotated around, and I had no idea the Music Vault existed. It's a permanent exhibition at that building with the kind of the Eiffel Tower on top of it.
The Arts Centre.
So you go in through that.
I think I've actually been to it.
You need to organise a ticket because in these COVID times you get spaced out, which is awesome because it's not crowded.
I'm actually, not everybody would be loving COVID time, so.
No.
But I don't mind it at the moment because you can do things like that where you buy a ticket.
Yep.
And there's 10 people in the expo, or you go to. I've been going to MSAC a little bit, buying a ticket for the pool, and I'm the only person in the pool. And I'm like, you know what? This is pretty good.
This world could work if they could make money. So no, it's a very cool exhibition. You get a little like a card, like a Mikey, and as you go around, you've got little music segments, and if you like a bit of music related to that kind of exhibit, so they have Tash Sultana's guitar case from when she was busking, like with her handwritten notes in it.
Wow.
They've got lots of AC/DC stuff there. I could not get Alan away from that exhibit.
It's Christina's 50th birthday today. Am I allowed to announce that number?
Yeah, it is. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Christina. And I said to Alan, let's do a beer show today. He's like, oh, can't, it's Christina's birthday. Don't worry. Yeah. I'll talk to her. Yeah. It will be okay. Anyway, get along to the Arts Centre and see that exhibition because it won't last long with only 10 people going.
So it is a permanent exhibition. They rotate the exhibits around. So like if you want to go and see some Akadaka, go now because that's on there. I got the T-shirt from them and I bought you a present, Colonel.
What?
I did.
How dare you?
Well,
you're so nice.
And here it is. So.
Aww. Thank you. Let's have a look,
This
folks.
is of an absolutely pivotal and iconic moment in Australian rock and roll.
Oh my God. Look at that. A Sunbury poster. Oh, I'm going to get it framed and hang it on the wall.
Because you're missing a couple after the adventures of recent times with people. And this is an iconic poster from an absolutely pivotal moment in 1972 in the history of rock and roll in Australia.
I'll give you, guess which customer of the Colonel's.
See, look, it's even a limited edition. You've got the...
What? Thank you.
You've got the stamp of approval there.
Panda is not allowed to eat that.
Yeah, the colours on it are fantastic.
It's probably a bit wacky with the green on the screen, but
it'd be missing,
I can assure you. Guess which customer of the Colonel's actually played at Sunbury?
Oh my God. He was 72, so this is going to be hard.
Teenager.
Jimmy Hocking.
No, older than Jimmy.
Gosh.
He's got curly hair, and he likes to come in at the end of the day.
Oh my goodness.
A great player. John English's guitar player.
Wow.
Mr. John Dallymore.
I had no idea he was of that vintage.
Yes.
But he was like 11 years old when he played there, wasn't he?
I think he was 14 or 15 or something.
Unbelievable.
He tells a great story of being on the bus, driving out there, and Shirley from the Skyhooks they were hurling insults back and forth between him and another band. It might have been the Sherbs or something. I can't remember. Great rock stories. But there you go. How about that?
What a story. Of course, and headlining that, and very impactful, Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, who might come up in our story later on.
They might.
They might indeed.
A lot of people don't realise that Billy... Well, he's probably born overseas like everybody.
He was one of the range of English immigrants to their fine town of Brisbane.
Incredible. And Brisbane. Nigel, I'll say hello to some people.
Please
and then let's kick off the facts.
Let's pick up the story.
Jeff Cook is on from Brisbane. Hello, Jeff Cook.
Brisbane gets extra points today for Brisbane people.
Is that cool? Andrew Horn is on. G'day. Michael Ray is still with us. Good morning, gentlemen. He says Les Paul Gibson is on. We've got the cast of regulars. Simon Barber says, morning, Colonel. I think he's coming in today.
Very good.
So
Don't come
look
in
forward to
too early.
But
come in.
Andrew Bagley says, hi, Anthony. Hello, Andrew Bagley. How are you? Simon Barber, never too early to rock. Yes, sir. Morning from Sydney, says Brad Lambert.
Sydney will get their turn, but I'm very pleased that we're talking Brisbane as rock postcodes today.
Absolutely.
Because it's a very important part in Australian rock history. So
I'm going to hand it...
We'll get to Sydney at some stage, you know.
And now I'll switch to Sir Nigel for rock postcodes Brisbane.
The 4,000.
The 4,000 postcode.
So I love this story, and so this is a revolution. This is terrorism. We're basically this is domestic terrorism, and a story of that and a town called Brisbane. It's about your mum. It's a Woodgie.
Did Joe Bjelke-Petersen write this?
No. Oh. As we've said before, the Kiwi Joe Bjelke-Petersen. This is all about your mum, Colonel.
Yes.
And the greatest revolutionary technologies of the 20th century.
My goodness.
And you want to hazard a guess at what they were?
PA systems?
I'm going to go the Fender Stratocaster.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to go the transistor radio.
Yeah.
1954, introduced by Sony in 1957.
Right. Well, so it was all valve technology up until then.
And
how about that?
The teenager.
Exactly.
But between those three technologies, we lit a fire that is still going today in Brisbane.
My goodness.
And so we talked about Detroit last week and how a 300 years of class and race conflict created MC5, Iggy Pop, Jack White, all of those incredible artists.
Yes.
So we don't have a race and class war here. That was over. They dealt with the race war very early on in Brisbane, bodies in the river and all that. And but
sorted that out fast.
We have
how we do it
the most remarkable intergenerational war breaks out after World War II.
Incredible.
And what people forget is that there wasn't such a thing as a teenager up until the mid-20th century. You were a child and then an adult, instantaneously.
And you went to work at 5 in the coal mines,
if you were lucky.
like Alan did.
Lived in paper bag in the middle of road. And so, look, and my mum used to tell me this all the time. And she started her thesis, a master's thesis on this subject, which was the invention of the teenager in the Britain where she was from. And we just completely forget. We take teenagers for granted. You know, I've got one, you're getting one soon.
I know.
And they didn't exist. There was no such thing. They were 13 or 14, they went to work. And so what happens after World War II and a growing wealth in the world is suddenly there's this staying at school longer, and they've got all that hormonal angst and energy, and they become like literally a firework that you light the blue paper and step back 3 meters and watch what happens next.
Knock on someone's door first.
Yeah, and with a bag of flaming poo.
A little bit of poo.
And so
run away.
This is the story of rock and roll in Brisbane, is this emergence of the teenager and the battle, the media arcing it up, the young, the old, dropping in rock and roll music to that mixture was like pouring petrol on a war.
Well, my mother tells me that, so she was a big music fan. She went to see all of those touring acts in the 50s in Brisbane, Bill Haley.
Did you ask her if she was a Woodgie? That's the key thing. So this is the labels given to young people by the media, bodgies and Woodgies.
So tell me what are they? I've heard the term, but
the UK ended up with mods and rockers, the Tribes and those kind of things, and America had the Greasers, the Wild One, the leather jackets, all those kind of things. So Australia, and particularly Brisbane, had bodgies and Woodgies. Bodgies are the rebellious young men who ascribe to rock and roll as their theme tune, and the Woodgies are the girls.
Okay, I like that.
Big hair, spiky shoes, not short skirts yet, 60s short skirts.
Yeah. Not until Jeannie Shrimpton.
And I'm guessing your mum was a wedgie.
She probably was. I have to ask her.
We should ring her up and say...
If she could only still hear, you know. You want to come up, Panda? This is always trouble. Okay, come over here. Come on, quick.
But this whole recipe, this incredibly volatile recipe, look at let's go through the bands. Powderfinger, Custard, Saints, Greats, Regurgitator.
Huge.
The odd one out, the Bee Gees.
Yes.
There's a story to be told there.
Yes.
Savage Garden, the Veronicas, the Go-Betweens, George, Dead Letter Circus, DZ Death Rays, which is Noah's generation of cool. My absolute favourite, and I think the end point of today's episode is logically, all of this revolution is what makes the Chats such an obvious band to represent Brisbane in an Australian battle of the city bands right now. Because they're irreverent, punk, youth, rude, noisy.
Yes.
And that's what you get. Punksy and the Poison Pens were them 10 years ago. You know, what a great band. My mates at Waxflower, they're kind of like they're a bit nice actually compared to that. Thelma Plum, Kate Miller-Heidke. She's a Gladstone girl, but she grew up in Brisbane.
What's the other girl? Forgotten her name now. My brother's done a couple of her clips.
Oh my goodness.
Melanie, she plays piano. I think she's had a baby. Someone will know. There's too many people. Too many talented people up there.
There's something in the water. That's what I conclude. And
it's generally mud, Sir Nigel. I'm not sure if you've drunk Brisbane water. But maybe Jeff Cook will chime in here because it is not pleasant. Sorry, continue.
And I'm very sorry. I missed sort of the Brisbane equivalent of this exhibition.
Yes.
So the Music Vault in Melbourne was a thing called High Rotation at the Museum of Brisbane a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
And that was this history, and I would so love to have seen that.
Yes.
Which was the history of rock in Brisbane from the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, right through to today. Yeah. And you've got to, this is just for those of us alive today to try and understand our history is really important because we know that's where we came from and gives us a clue as to where we're going. You know, so One Nation is our most wonderful museum piece.
Yeah.
Great headline I found. One Nation candidate Jim Savage says he misses the 1950s.
What? If we could only send you back there, Jim.
And Pauline.
In a hot tub time machine.
And they do absolutely represent.
With no return.
But you can't be romantic about it when you look at it through this way. And the pivotal moment is the 9th of January 1957. This is where the story begins. And a bloke called Bill Haley and his Comets.
Yes, well known.
So, how's Bill Haley well known at this point? It's not through the radio. So I talked about the transistor radio being an important invention. That's because in 1957, Sony releases this thing and suddenly the teenagers are in control of what they're listening to on the family radio. It's not the big valve radiola that your lot, the radio nerds, stole all the parts of for your hobbies.
Me and Joe Walsh.
And
hanging.
Then all of the amp makers stole for the guitar amplifiers as well, setting them on fire in the process.
That's cool.
And so Bill Haley has been known because of another technology, the movie. So you've got this restless group of sort of kids from the post-war era who are coming into their teens in the late 50s, and the movies are the equivalent of TikTok. Have you indulged in TikTok, Colonel? No. Okay. Michael Ray will be. I think I've seen Michael Ray on TikTok, and now the critical currency of TikTok.
I think I saw Michael Ray on Grindr, but that's
another thing.
It's another story. Yeah. Another show. Continue on, sir.
But so TikTok is all about the dancing. So the fortnight victory dance and the 30-second TikTok dance, or 20-second if you're just starting out. This is the cultural phenomena of 2020.
Yes.
And
that's the attention span.
So how do
the attention span of kids today.
Yeah. So how do kids know how to do the TikTok dances? They go to TikTok and watch the teaching videos.
Yes.
Now, if you're going to have a revolution against your parents who are partner dancing in patterns to country music in big dance halls, you're going to need to know the dance moves.
Yes.
And the way they learn them is through the movies.
That doesn't surprise me so much. My mother was a huge movie fan. That's probably why my brother got into film and blah, blah, blah. But when you look at old... I remember seeing an old clip of Bill Haley, and I thought, damn, that's beautifully shot. So it must be from a movie or something. So
absolutely. So Blackboard Jungle is kind of where it starts, and that's he's got that song "Rock Around the Clock" in it.
Yes,
which we associate. My generation associates with Happy Days, you know.
Yeah.
And
Arnold. Fonz.
The Fonz and Leather Tuscadero, my beloved Susie Quattro.
Love leather.
Have you got a Leather Tuscadero at home?
I like Pinky Tuscadero.
Oh, that's the big sister.
Yeah, that was the sister.
Yeah. So anyway, look, I have to credit. I'm so lucky. Last week was all about the videos and the things on YouTube.
Yeah.
This week I've got bad news for you folks. Your brother needs to make this story, and his starting point is the most incredible document, which is the PhD thesis of Dr. Jeff Walden. Now, Jeff, if you ever see this show...
We'll tag you.
I just thank you so much for creating what you did. He, in 2003, went round all the old folks, the old crackers, and recorded them in an unbelievable oral history of rock music in the 50s and 60s.
That's cool.
It's such a precious archive. Put it together around from the angles of the police, from the media, all those kind of things. And it's good. He's now the manager of the Australian Institute of Country Music.
Is he?
For his sins.
Based in Brisbane?
Yep, up there.
Wow.
And look, so the movies, 54, someone gets brave and decides to bring out a little bit of a cutting-edge rock and roll guy called Johnny Ray in 1955.
Johnny Ray, yeah.
Now, he's not technically rock and roll.
No.
He's just he plays it a bit fast, and people are dancing to his stuff. And he is banned in Britain and America for lascivious hip movement, Colonel.
Is this...
Pre-Elvis.
Pre-Elvis.
So he's doing the dirty moves with his hips and inciting all sorts of excitements.
The lambada of the day. Do you know how you teach yourself lambada?
No.
You take a pen.
Is it like twerking?
It's like twerking. You can do this for TikTok at home. You take a pen and you put it in your rectum and then you draw the figure 8. And that is lambada. Sorry, it's a bit early for that sort of humour.
Indeed. So anyway, Johnny Ray is kind of the first artist there, but it's kind of like it's all nascent and people are... The only dancers people know are the ones taught to them by the American soldiers based in Brisbane in World War II.
I bet.
I do love the story about Brisbane, is that Brisbane's so far north that Australia decides, you know what, in a war, first against the wall. So if we're going to sacrifice a town, we'll sacrifice Brisbane.
Easy.
And then we'll block the road on the way down. We'll fight them from there.
That's right.
And
that's where General Douglas MacArthur was based from.
That's right.
Brisbane.
And it was the headquarters for the transfer of American troops into the Pacific.
Wow.
So, cool. Like Brisbane, literally the stats incredible. There were more incoming troops per population of the town they were coming into in Brisbane than any city in the world.
Wow.
So you can imagine the impact on the young ladies.
I can imagine.
Of Brisbane. And these guys...
Responsible soldiers.
And so they brought with them the jitterbug, they brought with them the dancers, and they brought with them a deep critique of Brisbane as a town. And Brisbane's a cow town. It's a country town. It's got country values. There's a church on every corner.
You need the Lord. You definitely need the Lord when you
there's less than 100,000 people, and it's conservative, it's Catholic, it's religious, it's corrupt. It's kind of everything it is today.
This is 1954. Was this last week?
And look, it's also incredibly boring. I had this wonderful quote from a soldier who described Brisbane as being like a New York cemetery.
That's a good one.
Except only half the size and twice as quiet.
You know, one thing I like about, or two things I like about Brisbane. It has 2 airports, one for people moving to London and one for people moving to Melbourne. Did you know that?
But anyway, it all breaks through when this bloke, Lee Gordon, decides he's going to make a ton of money out of Australia promoting this emerging rock and roll. And what we've got to appreciate is the word rock and roll basically is a substitute for a synonym for rebellion.
Yes.
We think rock and roll, romantic kind of happy days. It was a dirty word in the 1950s because it's a social revolution that's occurring, and it's a symbol. Bodgies, widgies, riots, violence on the street, leather jackets, and your mum.
Well, apparently, my mother was telling me that her mother, my grandma, long gone to the outer space regions, used to say, because my mother would just flog these records over and over and over, and she said, take that rubbish off, and she hated Elvis.
Yeah, completely.
Absolutely hated
That's a really good expression of the kind of the tension that's building between the two. So the 45 RPM records, the other technology that causes and enables this revolution to happen.
Yes.
And it's a transition from sheet music as the only way to transport music in 1900 to the 45 record for this generation. And Brisbane, as this military base, it's still being visited regularly in the 50s by American soldiers, bringing what with them? And don't say gonorrhea.
Okay, well, that stopped that pretty quick. I'll go records.
45s, rock and roll 45s.
It's the same thing that happened in Liverpool.
Selling them at the wharves, and like the
records
kids are going down there with signs going, "We'll buy your records." And the words got out in the American military. You just take a giant stack of records, make a fortune from these kids. And they're going back and they're playing them, and they need bigger and bigger stereos, which is handy because that plays into the story later on. Bill Haley, 4 concerts, 20,000 kids over 4 nights. See Bill Haley at the stadium.
That's a fifth of the population up there at the time.
It was, and this is it's now long gone. It was a boxing stadium.
Yes.
Replaced by Festival Hall in 9. Do you know Festival Hall? Is that still
I
there?
do.
No, got knocked down.
No, Cloudland got knocked down. Someone from Brisbane will correct me on this. I think Festival Hall is still there, but it's something else.
No, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember 2003. Like this is the story of Brisbane. Talk about trying to bury its history.
A long time.
There's a bunch of apartments there now called the Festival Apartments.
Oh right. Oh, there you go. Okay. I saw some great bands at Festival Hall. Speaking of which, I think we should maybe
let's do a song.
Speaking of Bill Haley, there's another Bill that was an immigrant, much like myself, and Sir Nigel
and me,
and his name was Billy Thorpe.
1958. He is
there you go.
He is the exact representation of this generation coming in. So they're like, we're talking 500,000 immigrants, mostly British, coming to Australia after the war, and ultimately it was 1 million. But in that late 50s, early 60s, which is when my 10-pound pom family kind of started to emerge in New Zealand, that is a lot of people. We get the Gibb family and we get the Thorpe family, but by goodness, I'm a lover of one of those and not much of a fan of the other. So shall we...
I didn't realise you were a huge Bee Gees fan, Sir Nigel. Now, let me have a look.
What have you got that Thorpe? So he's got a bit of a checkered history, of course, with the Aztecs and it all falling apart about 5 times. He follows the Bee Gees in the end.
Oh, really?
To Sydney and then to London with the same record company.
Is that right? I did not know that. I love that. I mean, I mainly know him from his big hit song, which was Most People I Know Think That I'm Crazy.
This is not a hit song. This is a gigantic song.
This is gigantic. We're going to have a look at that in a second. I'll just say hello to a few more folks.
Yeah, let's do
because the comments have gone bananas here. Let's go back. Michael Ray says, obscure Sunbury Kiwi connection.
Oh, okay.
My original Aztecs live at Sunbury LP. The one with the pop-up tent wraparound was released on the Havoc label. Discs pressed in New Zealand on unbelievably thick vinyl.
At EMI.
How about that?
Oh, that is a great connection.
Les Paul Gibson, Bodgies and Widgies, Feral Teenagers. Jim Cavey.
Folk Devils, they were called. Folk Devils.
Isn't the Guitar Colonel from Brisbane as well?
He is.
I'm too famous to be in the list, though.
My other favourite Brisbane fact, they censored kids' comics from 1954 onwards. The Queensland Censorship Board censors children's comics.
Well, I can tell you now, you know how many times I always say, let's go back to the 1928 blah, blah, blah. So, Nigel, you were there and tell me all about it. Well, I actually was there for a lot of, not the 50s, but I do remember a very conservative Queensland in the 70s and 80s. And I remember the whole band thing. And we actually had, if you're my age in Brisbane, you're in bands, you'll know this, but there was an old building down in the valley, and it was Fortitude Valley, and it was called the Target Building, and it used to be a Target head office or something like that, but of course it was abandoned, and some smart realtor decided to rent out the spaces to bands. So we all had these band practice rooms in this building, and so you go into Chinatown, you park in this car park. There was a bridge, a walkway over Chinatown into this old building, and then it was just basically a free for all. You'd find your room, and it was amazing. Wow. So
it's that rebellious culture that's the story of why. So Billy Thorpe drops into this, and just you hear his voice. He's wow.
Crazy guy. Oh, let's have a look at
how does this people go?
I know think that I'm crazy. Now,
it's got parts to it, because now that's how we do it here at the Colonel.
It does have. And you know what? I've got an incredible chord connection, which I'll show you in a moment for another song. But it's like Brisbane had so many hits in B flat and F.
What?
Yes, it did. So Nigel, let's have a look. This is actually very similar to...
sorry about the humming, folks. We're both 60 cycle boys this morning.
Yeah, we're doing single calls. Let's think Dragon. Dragon. But yeah, so we're taking an A.
F-shaped A.
An F-shape A. And then I'm going to add my pinky to the third string, which is this one. That's a G string, on the 7th fret. Gives me a bit of a suspended sound. So in Dragon, it's... And of course, in Ramble On. And Billy Thorpe. Woo!
Wow.
Most people I know. And then it's a deep thing that I know. A. G. B.
That's a walk down, isn't it?
And then there's a couple of other little bits, which just, if you just hold an A.
Isn't that's that lesson, isn't it? Like, structure your solos around chords.
Let's have a go at it. It's slightly out of tune on the record, but that's all right. We're always slightly out of tune anyway.
I'm always out of tune anyway.
Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs. Most people I know.
You got it. Yeah, this is like... You want to be an Australian citizen, you need to learn to play this song. And we've got it quietly in the background.
We do. Hold on 1 second, Sir Nigel. We have an audio situation, which I'll fix immediately.
So how much do you reckon a transistor radio costs? So transistor radios are this... They made the teenager globally as a tech, right? Because suddenly the kids can... Little earpiece, take it into their room and listen to the station they want. Not listen to mum's freaking, big band party in the living room.
Come and listen to the wireless.
In today's money, $350 for a Sony TR63.
That's today's money.
Today's money. So so kids earn $20 an hour.
Yeah.
So it's a week's work after tax, and you got yourself a tranny and and to go into your own room and just listen to rock and roll.
I love it.
And we'll come in a minute. Someone needs to have a guess. What did a Strat cost? in Brisbane in 1958.
Wow. That's a good question. I think they were
in today's money.
Expensive.
In today's money.
It's a lot of money back then. All right, I think I fixed it. Here we go.
You solved that technology?
I hope so.
Here we go.
Most people I know think that I'm crazy. I know at times I act a little hasty, but if that's my way, and you should know it, then in every way, help me to show it.
Oh, Colonel, you are crazy.
Jesus.
Gee, I feel there's an external power in this room. The spirits of the great rebellious rock and rollers have been ignited in my Brisbane friend.
The spirits of Brisbane coming through. That's what it was like. Crazy.
You like a teenager all over again at the freaking right up here, going absolutely
I don't feel like
crazy.
a teenager anymore. I barely got up the stairs today. My knee. You know, another thing about Brisbane, Sir Nigel, that made it possible, especially when I was young, to be in a band and do all this sort of stuff, is, yes, we should do a guitar
I'm
swap.
going to do a guitar swap. You
Let's
keep
do it.
going, keep going.
Is the rent was very cheap up there.
Right.
And the wonderful Labor Party, I love you, Labor Party, was kind enough to let a lot of people just basically sit on the dole and be musicians back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
and so,
Labor stronghold.
I just, everyone I knew was in a, that's what they did, they were in a band. It's really...
So what we've got is a potent social cocktail. We have the American influence during the war. We have the movies to teach the kids how to TikTok dance. We have the 40 streams of 45s coming in the 50s from the American soldiers. And we have immigrants. We have Billy Thorpe, the Bee Gees, people like Tony Troughton, who would turn out to be a really important person in terms of technology and amplifiers and those kind of things. Getting a guitar was not easy at this point in time. Like people were paying...
Definitely not up there.
Dance bands were acoustic and used to battle over that kind of stuff. So we now need electric, because you just can't do all this at volume for teen dancers with an acoustic. The Nunda Music Centre.
Oh my God, I just shipped a guitar to Nunda. Hello, Jonathan Innes.
They are Australia's biggest Fender dealer at this point, which is an interesting thing for such a small town.
Guess where my mother grew up? Nunda.
No way. It is the epicenter of the rebellion.
Nunda.
And so he managed, the guy who runs that managed to get his hands on most of the Strats coming into until he's coming in. And people are so desperate, they're making their own, because a Strat costs £104 in 1958.
Good Lord.
And if you wanted a Fender custom colour Strat,
Yes.
the good news was you didn't have to wait very long, but it was £115 in 1958 Australian dollars.
A little bit more.
Now, the reason you didn't have to wait very long wasn't a miracle of international supply chain.
Yes.
It was the dodgy owner of the Nunda shop being out the back was a car spray shop.
No.
Sir wants the custom colour pink.
Ah.
Oh goodness me! Another £11, and that'll
Off to Bunnings.
and that'll be Friday. It'd send the apprentice over, strip them down.
Is that right?
Send the apprentice over with the body, paint it, and miraculously they would have.
That sort of explains why there's a few odd custom colours in Australia, maybe.
It does.
Oh my God.
Dozens and dozens of custom colour Strats.
Oh my God, that was Jackson's whole business. Sorry.
So
Right
what's
now.
£104 in today's money? Because what's a Strat today?
Now
I'm playing
all right.
a $4,000 Strat,
Yes.
obviously, and you've got
That's
the
a little bit more.
$14,000 Strat.
I know this is we've got shy of 5,000 on it, but this is a 1954 reissue. So this was the 60th anniversary model.
Yeah.
2014, and a heavy relic. So you can see it's really they've gone.
I'm very excited. That feels like, we talk about this thing vestigia of an era.
Good Lord,
Bring it on! That has the bell-like tones.
It has
How
the
cool is
bell-like
that, though?
tones.
That's the guitar
This is it.
witnessed the teen rebellion revolution, the riots, the police fights,
An
the
exact
violence.
copy.
And guitars are so hard to come by. So what is an ordinary Strat at the ordinary shop cost now?
I think it's $2,500 or something. In America, if you want to get into the American line,
the American Strat.
The entry point is probably. I mean, I'm not a Fender dealer, but I'm guessing it's 2.5.
Did anyone guess on the internet?
Let's
interwebs?
have a look and see.
Because the correct answer is $3,268 in today's money.
What?
According to the Australian Treasury currency conversion.
Who can afford that?
So-
Jim Covey from Brisbane says, don't forget Mick Hadd. Who's Mick Hadd?
Oh, you have to explain that one.
Scott Walker. Hi guys. Hi Scott Walker. Jim Covey always found it ironic that Brisbane produced so many quality musicians, yet were not supported by venue owners. Migration was needed for commercial success. Yes, sure.
Very much.
Bill had to Stavros Children of the Revolution. Okay, I'm down with that. And Jeff Lee, 50 cycle hum in Australia.
50.
Not 60.
Tough.
There you go. Thank you, Jeff.
I like that trivia. That's good.
Might be a little ham radio friend of mine, maybe.
But yeah, $3,200. Like you're gonna go Noah or his like saving up $3,200.
That was like a year's wage.
No, you think today it's $20 an hour is pretty much what the kids earn.
In
today's money,
right,
yeah, £104, $3,200.
Right.
So $20 an hour. That's quite a lot of hours. That's a couple of months' savings, easily half a year's savings to buy a guitar. So they share them around, and there's a Japanese brand called Star.
Oh yeah.
That was half the price, 50 quid.
Done.
Was dead popular. And
Sold.
if you had any kind of woodworking skills, you're making your own, and you're making your own amps.
Right.
Amps become the next big problem.
Yes, there's lots of old Australian amp builders. Gold Tone, Rex, Bass Kings.
The venues are getting big. Cloudland is a big venue.
Yep.
And so the whole invention of PAs and amplifiers and electricity being pumped into guitars is all funded by this era. And a band particularly called The Planets.
The Planets, yes.
Who, Bill Haley and his Comets. So they became the Planets, and they became the go-to rock band of Brisbane.
Stratocaster.
Absolutely.
They're right into space stuff.
Yeah, and it's unstoppable. And the police and the media and the Catholic Church and the Labor Party are panicked that this literally revolution is happening, playing out in front of their face. Disobedience is rife, Colonel.
Yes.
Your mum would have been a right disobedient young lady, I suspect. In the
what do you mean was?
In your nana's eyes, absolutely, you know. And so the Beatles turn up in 1964.
Yes, I know a few people that went to that as well. My auntie, I can't remember.
And it's just the wave after wave of this thing. Now, the trivia, Billy Thorpe, Aztec Sunbury, who knocks the Beatles off the number one position in 1964?
Ooh.
As they're touring.
What?
This is unprecedented in the world, folks.
Billy Thorpe?
Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs.
What? Wow.
So as a result, the Beatles, they go, we want to meet this guy.
Oh, that's awesome. I love this story.
And so they arrange to meet with Billy.
What?
And they want to meet the guy who knocked them off number one, the only time in history whilst touring. But you name them, they played Brisbane, man, and man just doesn't stop. You know, the Saints basically pick up the torch from here.
Yes. In
the 70s. It's the same team.
Another song in F. Another song in F.
Have you got any Saints songs, or are they a bit hard?
I have plenty of Saints songs. The problem with the Saints is they normally are slightly out of tune, and the recording is just, in my opinion, is just a mess. Yep. So we could do Know Your Product, but it's quite messy. But I'd be happy to do that one. That's not too bad. It's makeable.
The crazy thing for me, not being an Australian, I came to the Saints late and largely through you, to be honest.
Yes.
So I thought Know Your Product was a Hunters and Collectors song.
Oh, right. It sounds a lot like Hunters and Collectors.
It's so
it really
contemporary.
Does. Yeah.
Now, you've got the Saints, if you don't, they're important globally. Bob Geldof said, the rock music in the 70s was changed by three bands: the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, and the Saints.
Here's one for you, Sir Nigel. The Colonel has powered many Australian rock stars with implements of sound.
Mass destruction. And a little gentleman from the Saints called Ed Cooper has bought from us before. He bought a 335. He's a charming gentleman. Let me touch you.
How are you, Ed?
That's royalty. That's great.
Hi, Ed. If you're watching.
Well, we have to decide, don't we?
Because
it's kind of 10 o'clock. So the Saints.
Oh my God.
They hold the thing through there, and then it's Powderfinger.
Right.
And one more technology from our collection fuels the Powderfinger revolution. One more technology right in your wheelhouse.
Computers.
It's radio again. It's Triple J.
Triple J, yes.
So, Powderfinger formed 1988.
Yes.
Triple J goes nationwide 1989.
Now, here's a story for you. We can go a bit over time. We might have to do a part two on this. I left Brisbane, my first attempt to flee the border was in 1989. So I went back to my home country of Canada. Canada. And there was no Triple J. There was nothing. I knew a couple of the guys, the Powderfinger guys from school, because we went to school together.
Yeah,
they were a year below me. And my memory was that they were just doing some covers at the Pineapple Hotel or something. From memory, that's my memory.
Yeah.
So I took off, and then I came back in 91, sad and sorry for myself. And I turned on the radio, and a few people were saying, "You got to listen to this Triple J." And I thought, oh, and then I absolutely loved it. I was blown away. I thought, wow, how about that? And then somebody else said, "You need to come along. We're going to see Powderfinger." And I'm like, oh, really? I don't want to go to the Pineapple Hotel. No. They're playing this venue. It used to be under the Maya Centre in Brisbane, and it was huge. And I'm like, what are they doing there? And so anyway, I turn up, and there's like 1,000 people or 800 people. I met, so another friend of mine from school, Jason Shepherd, younger brother of Brad Shepherd from the Hoodoo Gurus.
Yep.
Went to the school. So I turn up with Jason. I meet his brother, who's a lovely, lovely gentleman, Brad. And we watched Powderfinger, packed. And I thought, this is unbelievable. In 2 or 3 years.
I think we could do a show celebrating the Silverchair Powderfinger tour, because that's a very pivotal moment in Australian rock.
I have some super, which I can't talk about it.
Because we could do that on the basis of that's so many postcodes.
Yes.
And like in terms of the royalty of Australian modern rock, it is Silverchair Powderfinger. That's number one. So 5 number one albums, Powderfinger, 18 arias.
Jesus.
Only topped by Silverchair.
I don't know if I want to keep hearing this. It makes me...
I
tried to join on the tuba, but
this happened because suddenly the rest of the country can hear Brisbane.
Yeah.
Because breaking out of Brisbane, as you did, with those really high fences and the cops with guns on the border, is very, very difficult.
I went under. I went under the fence.
Yeah, I love all the recent times how hard it's been to get out of Brisbane to another state. Right? It used to be like that.
It was much worse
in the 60s and 70s as well, and.
So I have a little insider info on that Silverchair tour, because guess who was hanging around a little bit with them back then? It was my brother.
Oh.
Who did, at the time, he was doing the Silverchair clips.
Okay, so that's a deal. We do a show on that on that tour as a multi-postcode show. But, despite everything conservative Brisbane has thrown at the rock and roll scene, demolishing all of the venues.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they love that.
And they've just got Fortitude Music Hall back, which is like, that's finally got a decent venue down in the valley.
I had a school teacher at the time, primary school teacher, and he was a big fan of the lovely buildings that were being knocked down. So he would take us on excursions.
Oh man,
to see the building before it was bulldozed. And there was a famous building, Jim Cavale in Brisbane, that Joe bulldozed. It was a beautiful old hotel. So I went on an excursion to see that right the week before they bulldozed it.
That's a really, really important thing, and that's the landscape of rock and roll in Brisbane, and that's why Brisbane's so vital. But
cool.
We're not going to get to the chats, which Smoko is my favourite song in recent years. It's just so irreverent, so up you Pauline Hanson type of songs, and up you Scott Morrison. But let's go back to the Saints, and let's finish with the Saints. And
you don't want to do Powderfinger?
Oh, I do, but let's do Powderfinger's Silverchair.
Another show. All right.
You've
been saved. If you're watching, Ian, your ears have been saved. Saints. Okay, let's do. This will be fun. Know your product. Know your product. Which I may not know.
It's hard.
No. We can do it. Yep, let's do it. It's know your product, ladies and gentlemen. I'll show the hard part. Let's call it tab 1. F. It'll be 3, 4. It'll be 6. The 5th string one.
5, 6.
It'll be that one.
Oh yeah.
And then to that one. Yeah. So da 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 da.
It's such a horn song, isn't it?
And then you just sit on the F. Da 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 da, and I'll do the. That's it.
Let's celebrate the Saints on our
And
way
then
out.
there's like a C and a B flat.
Okay,
You'll get it.
An absolute salute to Brisbane,
It's been a pleasure, folks.
where teenagers came from, where rebellion was in the river, in the water, and as a result, we got rock and roll.
We got it.
Thank you, Bill Haley, for lighting that fire.
You know, I have plenty of Saint stories as well, and I know where they used to practice, and they would be kicked out of all their practice venues, but there used to be a place up Caxton Street Way near Lang Park, which is now something else, a Suncorp Stadium or something. But
That's right, because they knock everything down.
they knock every I know where they used to practice in this like thing on Petrie Terrace, and how about that? Can you believe it?
The best. So good. What a great way to end the morning here in South Melbourne.
Yes.
Shooting the
lovely.
Strings, episode 136 is done.
Feels like Brisbane. It's quite humid in Melbourne at the moment.
We
Feels
have
Brisbane.
saluted the great town of Brisbane, the history
be
of
back.
rock and roll.
Yes.
Fabulous guitars. This was not custom shopped by Nunda Music at the car paint shop next door. This was genuinely...
These are legit. And that is, in fact, going to Brisbane this week.
Oh, no way.
Yes,
What a small world.
How about that?
I'm pink and blue. You're brown and brown.
That's the story of... Lovely. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll probably be back
Yeah,
next
what
week
rock
with-
postcode do you want us to celebrate? So shoot that in the comments and
Send in, if you have a show you would like us to do, please send
Yeah.
a message to us.
and the Colonel will bring the rock and I will bring the trivial facts.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Sir Nigel.
Beautiful. Lovely episode.
Genius, as always. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find this on YouTube a little bit later. Thanks for watching. If we didn't say hello, we will say hello next time. And we're out of here. 3, 2, 1. Bye, guys.
This episode of Shootin' the Strings is proudly brought to you by the Guitar Colonel. For the best vintage and used guitars in Australia, visit www.guitarcolonel.com.